actually a great name for sales.
Hey everybody, this is Kaylee. You know me. You've heard me 100 times. We have a special guest today, Karen Oeser, and we've got her talking today about investments and also talking about multifamily real estate. I'll let her introduce herself because I won't do it justice. Go ahead, Karen, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Karen Oeser, and I'm the principal of Eastlight Investments. We invest in multifamily properties in the Southeast. I'm actually extending out a little bit further. I'm looking at a deal in Kansas City right now that looks pretty hot, so I'm pretty excited about that. And I'm so happy to be part of this world of yours, Kaylee. You know, I've been only in the multifamily for about a year now, and I'm going strong. I love it, and I'm so excited to be in this world.
That's awesome. And obviously you have a breadth of knowledge. So there's a couple of things that we'll talk about today. So the first thing that we usually ask guests that are on the show, because there's a point in time where when you're starting your own business, you're always trying to figure out, am I going to bootstrap it? Am I living with my parents? Am I, like me starting my first business on a credit card? Like, how exactly are you getting going? And then what does it take to start getting traction and moving forward to getting attention? So kind of like, what did it take to like really do the tough stuff? Because people look at entrepreneurs and they're like, oh, you get to make your own schedule, and it's not like that. So it's a lot of tough stuff. What was the tough stuff, and how did you get through it to get the traction?
Well, I'll answer that question twice because I started several businesses in my career, and one was very bootstrapped very early on. I was, I've been in the traditional investment business world for about 25 years now, and so when I had my children and they were small, I wanted to do some consulting. And so I decided to start a consulting firm. And so that was completely bootstrapped. That was, that was actually, the truth is my home equity line that got me through that. And, that was my very first successful flip. So that's what got me interested in real estate a little bit was the flip and seeing how quickly that worked. And so the second foray into it is, well, I had several businesses from that point, but my latest one, Eastlight Investments, I went into it, I've been in a place now, having a long career now, where I did have some investments where I actually cashed out of the stock market in January. So the timing couldn't have been better to put into this business. And so I feel very fortunate because, with my background in traditional investing, I've been able to extract the vital skills that I needed out of that and how to apply it and how to diversify my portfolio right away and be able to, spend my money wisely and think about allocation, the importance of marketing and all of that.
Very cool. And I'm glad that you actually covered a little bit of the details because some of the guests that we have won't get into the nitty gritty. Like I said, I put mine on credit cards because I was like, let's get this going. And then once, anyway, so I appreciate that for you sharing that because I want everyone listening, whether man or woman, doesn't matter who, to know that you can do it, and it's not someone's going to hand you a wad of cash. You know what I mean? So that's not how this works.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because I know you've had quite a few guests on that have talked about solo Ks.
Yeah.
And that's most specifically the vehicle that I use to start my real estate investment business.
Solo 401ks, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Very cool. And so for those of you who have never heard of that before, it's a really cool vehicle where you're using your traditional investment vehicle, but self-directing it and then being able to kind of what we call have checkbook control, where the kind of investments you choose, you write a check and you can invest in those things. Without getting too much down the rabbit hole on that, I just wanted to ask you,
I'm a finance person, so I love to go down the rabbit holes in the details. So.
Well, we can a little bit, So from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, what that means, if you have checkbook control, then you're able to do a solo 401k if you're a sole proprietor and you have your own LLC or business and you have one employee or less. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, cool. So I guess it's not too much.
And so that's great. And so then what you can do is, again, not getting too much into the weeds, is typically you hold each of your properties in a different LLC name. And so your solo K invests directly into that LLC.
Right. And I had a girlfriend yesterday who said that she had a whole bunch of medical rep income and was having her boss actually withhold her bonuses for a couple years now because she's like, I really don't want that money because it's going to be taxed taxed at 40%. So we're talking about how we can do things with it, because we know that Roth IRAs and things like that have a limit. And actually 2021's limits were just introduced. And I'm like, okay, so it's like 26 over here, like 11 over here. It's not that much, So
no, it's not. Especially when you're looking at that level of investment, you want something with a little broader application. And of course, there's always the, doing the infinity banking as well. And that's something that I know you guys have talked about. So there are lots of different vehicles that you can use. They give you much more borrowing power. Yeah,
I was going to say that's what I told her that I did. I was like, I've got about $100K in that. And, anyway, so if you're looking at a larger chunk of money and you haven't been doing it, this much every year. And then also we're at the end of 2020. So, we are still in this fiscal year, and then in a month or whatever, we're in the next fiscal year. So, you could, whatever. So I'll let you talk about that. You're the financial expert, but
yeah, there are lots of creative options. And that's the exciting thing is, when I started in this business, they didn't have these opportunities. So there couldn't be a better time to be transitioning into the multifamily because, no matter where you are in your financial assets, there's a place for you in the real estate market.
Now, with having your background of experience of traditional investing and then obviously learning how to get involved with multifamily, can you share a little bit with our listeners on, I guess, some of the biggest challenges that are there when it comes to investing into multifamily or getting into that realm? I think some of the things that I've heard is the barrier to entry is a little higher than, for example, investing in like house notes. So like, the minimum investment, certain types of investments that you'll do, again, without me getting too much in the weeds, but like when you'll invest in a leveraged asset. So an apartment, usually we have leverage or a loan on it. If you do certain types of vehicles, you still have a UBIT and UDFI, like an extra tax, basically. So what are some of the challenges to overcome, I guess, when you are doing multifamily investment from traditional into it?
Yeah, like I said, we already addressed one of the biggest hurdles, and that is where you pull your assets from to put it in there. But also, like you said, you're absolutely right. The barriers to entry are very high, but that's also a very good thing at the same time because that presents opportunity. Because when you're looking at supply and demand, if you know what you're doing, and and I just like to encourage all the listeners that you really need to get involved into a coaching program, not only for the education side of it, which is very important, but for the network. Everybody in my world that has taken me higher is 1 degree of separation from multifamily coaching programs.
Right.
And I can't emphasize that enough. And so when it comes to the barrier of entry of access in your network, that is the key to getting over that big barrier.
Now, what would you say personally were any of your challenges, or maybe you didn't have any, or like you could at least vouch for a personal friend or someone that you saw around you have a challenge where it came to getting involved in investing in general? What's been a challenge?
Well, what I'd have to say, quite honestly, for me, very, very personally, is I can talk stocks and bonds till the cows come home, but I thought, who am I to talk about real estate? I don't know anything about it other than, I've successfully flipped a few single family homes. But when it comes to multifamily, and you're talking millions of dollars too. We're not talking about, a $75,000 house, moving from the single family, because I did step into the single family, and it's a different mentality going from single family to multifamily. So getting comfortable speaking the language I would say that was one of the biggest hurdles, and particularly for women. Women are always worried about, how do I look? How do I sound? What do people think? How do they judge me? And you know what? I was there too. I'm a financial expert, so to speak, but I still was petrified to say, who am I to start talking NOIs and talking about, worrying about, the plumbing and the EPA rules and, getting the engineering documents together. It's a whole nother world. But that's why, I like to not think through life in hurdles, but is answers to hurdles. And so that's another reason why surrounding yourself around a team of people who understand what you're doing, that they can help speak into that, can also help you have the confidence in that.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with you. And like you mentioned, the mentality of single to multifamily is different in the fact that I do personally heavily rely on my team. My legal counsel, very heavily rely on them, my contractors, because it's a little different. I had done some single family flips where it was kind of like these people were trying to find every angle to take advantage, and the contractors that I have now in multifamily, there's only a handful of guys, companies, if you will, that are big enough and have enough scale to be able to say, I can come in and in 2 weeks I can flip 20 units. There's very few groups that can do that and then do it at a price point that's effective and makes sense. And so because there's so few of them, they really care about their reputation. And so they really don't try to play games. They kind of just do a good job. So that's it. I mean, that's actually been one of the easier parts, but I do depend on my team like that. Yeah.
Well, and I'd add to that as well is there are two things that have really stood out to me in the multifamily world as well, is we do stick together. We all know each other. You go to conferences, you know the names. And if you don't know the names, you'll know somebody who knows that name and they could vouch for them, because the bad eggs don't last very long. They get outed very quickly. And also the fact that the charitable mindset of the people in multifamily have really captured my heart. I have not been to a single of, I'm just getting chills actually talking about it, because it's just so heartwarming to see, people talk about what their why is, and there's lots of money to be made in this, obviously. But at the end of the day, you can't take your money with you, but the mark that you leave in this world. And everybody I speak to is not just like, okay, let me go give to the United Way and call it good and check that box. No, everybody's had something touch their life personally, and the fact that they know that they can leave their mark helping people out, especially in those areas where they struggle at some point in their life.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and that's what it's been for me. Your mess is your business. So you kind of have a mess and you figure out how to fix it, and then you want to share that with other people. So
absolutely,
yeah, it's the same. Now back to you, without talking about me. What would you say has been probably your biggest win?
My biggest win, that's a good question. My biggest win was actually when I joined, there's a group called Aspiring Women, AWAM.
Is that with Mandy McAllister and whatnot?
Yeah, Mandy McAllister.
Yeah, I love her.
I love her. And so I joined the group, and in fact, I was listening to one of Rod Khaleef's, I went to one of his boot camps, and Mandy and Chat and, a few of the other women were on there. In fact, so I reached out to Chat and said, how can I get involved with your group? And she said, join the multifamily women's group and then also this AWAM group. And I said, okay, this is great. I need to get chimed in. And so I joined AWAM. They have an accountability group. And, the truth of the matter is I've had issues with pride. And going in front of these powerhouse women that are very vulnerable, well, at the point, I didn't see them as vulnerable. I just thought they were powerhouse women who would judge me into a new market. And so it was just about 3 months ago, I said, okay, I'm going to take that leap and I'm going to go there. And I mean, I've gone to 0 to like 60 in 3 months just by, being humble and being vulnerable and joining that group. And so my biggest win was getting a handle on my pride and channeling that confidence in a way that can help me be a winner, a collaborator, and a team player.
That's awesome. I mean, because I feel like that gives you a lot of freedom, and because it feels like everything that gives us pride or self-confidence is achievement, and the more that I think that you open up and you ask for what you want and you ask for help, and the more that will come to you, so hopefully that will lead to whatever achievement it is that you're wanting faster, and probably on a larger scale than before. So that's awesome.
And so the deals are just flowing now. Yeah. And like I said, who would have thought I'd be in Kansas City? I mean, here I am in Greenville, South Carolina, and then I've got people out in California. And, and that's one of the other, I would say that would have been on your hurdle question. Another one of my everybody wants to be here. Yeah. And so it's like, well, how am I going to meet people elsewhere and go into other markets? And so through these groups that I've joined, there's feet on the street, boots on the ground.
Yeah, you got it. Exactly. And we want to help each other,
And I can bring my investor relations skills to the table. On ownership teams, they don't have that skill set, so it's a natural skill set to bring to a team.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And you're right with the team thing. Like whenever we're looking at a group of us getting together, the team isn't really just like a rah-rah, cool, whatever. It's like, what do you possess? Like, are you someone that's really good at raising money? You're someone that's really good at getting the deal? Are you somebody that's really good at negotiating? Are you somebody that's really good with asset management? Like Ashley Wilson is a total bad A when it comes to asset management. Yeah. For example, Anna Kelly, like she's kind of like the mom. Like she's someone that's been doing this a long, long time. And so she doesn't mind going, okay, the last depression that we were involved in, I kind of, not depression, but recession that we're in, I lived through that. And here's some advice. So she's given me advice on certain things I was looking at buying and things that I just, well, actually a lot that I said, no. So I have to thank them.
Yeah, and also, one of the things women tend to want to hang around like-minded people, but that could hurt you in the team environment because it's like, okay, the finance people, let's go 5 operators, and you don't have finance people, that deal won't work well. Mm-hmm. And it's no hard feelings. It was okay. We all need to be on separate deals, and so that makes us a greater family rather than because you have to be a well-balanced ship. Yeah,
you're right. You're 1,000% right. I've learned that lesson trying to do everything myself. I've learned that lesson, but it's kind of the same idea in business in general is finding out, like as a good leader, a good leader is somebody who looks at a bunch of people and says, okay, what is your strength? Let's figure out what that is. And then everyone kind of like stays in their lane with what is their strength. And then we all have, regular meetings, come back together and talk about how that lane is going. And then if that lane is affecting another lane, then we'll talk about, whatever collaboration. But that's so key because if you have too many cooks in one kitchen, it doesn't really make sense. So sometimes our management teams, I'd say under 5 is like for sure necessary. I'd say 3 is pretty good.
I agree. Yeah, I agree, and it needs to be an odd number.
Correct. Yeah. On what I'm dealing with right now, a deal, we've got someone that is a project manager or had been for Microsoft and then now is for Amazon. So she's used to those huge systems and sort of like not corporate policies, but just standard operating procedures and organization. And then our other gal is extremely intelligent and has a dual master's degree, a math master's degree. And she loves, something that takes me 4 hours takes her 30 minutes. You know what I mean? So I'm like, everyone's in their lane. And then I'm really good with people, with raising money, with operations, like applying my experience, in real time. And then I also I'll be honest, I don't have a pride issue. I don't mind like saying, I don't know, I know I'm young. And so I reach out to people that have been doing it for 10 years plus. And I'm like, all right, I've got these options. And most of the time I already know what the right answer is, but just because, throw it at the wall and see if they have a better solution. Who knows? I don't mind taking 5 minutes to make a phone call. So having everybody that has their own different skill set is very key to avoiding some challenges, I think.
And that's a great way for you also to get more acquainted with that other skill set because when you get people that really have a strength in that area, you'll learn from them even though that's not your area of expertise, and then you can just take your whole team to a higher level because you're more conversant in that.
Yep, you're exactly right. So, the rising tide rises all ships. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's cool that you're looking at Kansas City. If you haven't heard of them yet, check out Simplify. With 2 Y's at the end. Probably have.
Yep. Yes, I have heard of them.
I'm such a, tech nerd that I just don't like overtime, downtime, human error, and I really love technology. And so that in addition to probably 5 or 6 different tech things that you can bring in to monitor your MEPs and all kinds of different things can really look at exactly how much money is being wasted every month on little things and be able to increase your NOI.
My language, girl.
Yeah. And I really get excited about that kind of stuff. I get excited about working with people directly and, say I've had some residents that have had cancer and things like that. And you have an opportunity to kind of figure out how to make it work for both people. You don't need to kick them out, but you don't need to let them take advantage of the business. You kind of figure out a middle ground solution. So that's cool. And then
that can be an uncomfortable balance too.
Yeah, because you're so, you just have to be solution focused and figure it out. But So that's fun. The renovations, I think, are really fun, seeing the end product, and then, looking at your financials and going, oh my God, someone that I'm seeing right now does some hotels. And so I've sat in on their board meetings and I've gone there just for ideas. So I have a long list of value add ideas that are not multifamily specific, but I'm like, let me look at your average daily rate and then multiply it by 30 days. Let me look at, things like that and just apply it to retrofit it to multifamily. And so I've gotten some really small things like bike rentals for $1 and a QR code, or just little things. So that's obviously excites both of us.
That's a great strategy, and that's one thing, that's why you've been very successful. I mean, in the areas is because, in terms of when I'm talking to other women and coaching other women, that's the one thing is be flexible, be open, because, the world isn't in a silo. And that's just what you've described, looking for opportunities. I mean, that's where there's victories. That's where there's excitement, is when you have two pieces of information and you can find a third way to leverage that.
You are exactly right. Now, Karen, that is pretty much all of the main questions that we usually ask. And I want to keep this really brief because it's such good packaged information. We've covered several very deep categories, but in a very good, succinct way. Now, if our audience is looking to get a hold of somebody who understands multifamily investing, who understands traditional investing, kind of the whole gamut, and then you also have a couple different designations as a teacher financially, how can they work with you directly or reach out to you?
Oh, definitely. So you can reach me on eastlightinvest.com. My number, feel free to call me direct. I love my direct calls, 864-551-1820. And I'm Karen at eastlightinvest.com. And you can, feel free to reach out to me. Also, on my website, I've got a Calendly button on there where you can schedule. At this point out there, that is the biggest time saver. That's my big pro tip today. Get on a calendar, because I actually have another company, Financial Literacy for Her. I have them merged. And so even my girlfriends, it's like, here, tag me in there and, see where you are. So feel free to schedule a meeting on there directly through my website. And if you go to my website as well, there is a report that you can download for free, and it talks about the 10 reasons why I left the investment business and how it applies to multifamily. So that's somewhere you can go, and it just really talks about, expenses and, the money you can make and how interest rate actually works for you rather than against you. And so that's a really good starter to get primer for you if you're really trying to see how the two worlds work together.
Very cool. So you said that was eastlightinvestments.com?
eastlightinvest.com.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. So yes,
no problem.
Anybody that wants to reach out to Karen, like she said, feel free at those different mediums. And Karen, thank you so much for your time today on our show. And we'll be able to have you also on several of our other platforms to help educate our audience on getting involved as a female in investing, and then being able to have resources such as yourself and those guides that you made, which are awesome, to be able to feel comfortable, because that's what we need. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you for having me today. I really enjoyed it. And the last question you did ask me was about my designations, and that's a CFA, which is a Chartered Financial Analyst, and I'm also a Certified Financial Education Instructor. So if anybody wants me to speak to their groups, any kind of big seminars, definitely reach out to me direct, and I'll talk about anything. I love this topic, and I love helping women in any way I can.
That is awesome. So thank you so much, Karen, for being on today. Everybody who's listening, reading, watching, tune in next time, either on Number One Leading Ladies or Women in Multifamily Real Estate. Thank you all for joining today.